Believe it or not, it did not end there. First at 5, dramatic video just in from a KGW viewer. It shows a driver speeding down the sidewalk. You just saw it, nearly hitting someone before crashing into a storefront at the Gateway shopping mall. Let's explain what happened here. A witness on the scene says the man on the video was shoplifting from Ross and tried to get away. Another driver saw what was happening and boxed the car in. That's when he drove onto the sidewalk in that video in an attempt to get away. Portland police tell us the man behind the wheel is 40-year-old Nigel Davis. Police say Davis was in a stolen car and tried to run away after crashing. He got onto a TriMet bus, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't in service. Wow. Police arrested him as he was getting off the bus. We checked, and Davis has a long criminal history. His last conviction was in 2020. He's now charged with multiple felonies and a parole violation. Glad every... All right, do not let those cheers from today's closing bell mislead you. It was a miserable day on Wall Street. The S&P 500 finishing its worst week since January. The Dow diving nearly 900 points. Really ugly across the board as we closed off the week. The big reason, new inflation numbers that were, surprise, worse than expected. We are all feeling the impact of inflation too. Prices just keep going up. And today we learn we have hit an inflation rate that hasn't been seen this high in 40 years. Tim Gordon joins us now. And Tim, this is a brutal year-over-year number. I mean, higher than where we were in March. Inflation now surging to 8.6%.
Yeah, David, Laurel, it really is up again, and now the highest it's been since 1981. So what's going on here, and how are people doing? We talked to an economist and people feeling the pinch. It is a tough time if you're going shopping these days. Just about everything is more expensive. And that's the way it's been going for more than a year. You see the inflation rate climbing month to month. The latest up again for May, bringing us to 8.6%. That means the price you're paying for things is up an average of 8.6% from a year ago, costing American households over $450 more a month.
Hate to see them go up like this. It's terrible. Everybody's budget's being stretched.
Economists say this is across-the-board inflation, but day to day we feel it buying food. That is up 10% for the year. And the energy index, which includes the skyrocketing cost of gas and diesel, is up a huge 34.6% the past 12 months. What's going on here?
What's going on is we had a whole ton of stimulus put into the economy.
Economic consultant Bill Connerly predicted 2 years ago that 2022 would be a year of inflation. He was right. He puts most of it on federal officials overstimulating the economy during the worst of COVID.
They did that not because they wanted, 8.5% inflation, but they were afraid of recession, and they said, let's err on the side of caution.
Now, Connerly says there is more money than product in the U.S., so supply and demand issues are driving up prices to historic highs.
I hope that things will get better. It can't get much worse.
Back at the grocery store, inflation is hard on everyone, but especially on people on fixed incomes or raising a family.
I feel for people who are really feeling it with the amount of money that they have to spend now on gasoline, food, everything.
Definitely not going out to eat as much. The kids are not too happy about that. So, but yeah, that's the way we're saving.
Connerly sees inflation staying high well into 2023. His advice for consumers is pretty straightforward.
You need to think about cutting your expenses where you can.
And Connerly says breaking your brand habits and bargain shopping for things you need can also help. Now, we know a lot of folks are already doing these things and they're still struggling, but good advice if you can use it. Laurel?
Thank you, Tim. And here's another angle on this story. One of the many expenses affected by growing inflation is housing. Casey Decker with our Verify National team looked into a viral claim that says you can't pay the rent if you make minimum wage.
Home prices and rents continue to rise, but the federal minimum wage hasn't changed since 2009. One viral tweet claimed, quote, the average rent in the U.S. hit a new record high of $1,827 last month. On the federal minimum wage of $7.25, people take home $1,256 a month. Let's verify. Has typical rent in America exceeded the income earned on federal minimum wage? Our sources, the Department of Labor, and 3 real estate sites that produce research on rent prices. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. So let's calculate monthly income. On a 40-hour work week, if you worked 52 weeks a year, that comes out to $1,256 per month, just like the tweet claimed. Now, of course, some states have minimum wages higher than that, but we'll come back to that. The tweet says the average rent in America is $1,827 per month. That number comes from Realtor.com's April estimate of median rent. It's based off units advertised on the site in the top 50 metro areas and only includes studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom apartments. Redfin does a similar estimate based on listed units of all sizes. Its number for April was $1,962 per month. And Zillow's estimate actually tries to account for all rents, not just new listings. Their national typical rent number, $1,927 per month. All of those rent estimates are significantly higher than the $1,256 per month you can make on federal minimum wage. That means we can verify that the tweet is truthful when it claims typical rent has exceeded the income earned on the federal minimum wage. So what wage would you have to make to afford typical rent in the U.S.? Using Zillow's 1927 estimate, you need to make $11.22 per hour. And that's just to make rent. It doesn't account for taxes or other living costs. 16 states plus D.C. have minimum wages that high, but the cost of rent in those states may be higher than the national estimates. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Casey breaking it down for us. All right, it is Fleet Week and Rose Festival, which means thousands of people are set to visit Portland's waterfront. Right now, ships with the Navy and the Coast Guard and the Royal Canadian Navy are all docked around the downtown stretch of the Willamette.
So great to have them here. And we got a sneak peek at USS Michael Monsoor this morning. Tours are free and you don't need a ticket, but you will need your ID, proof of vaccination, and closed-toed shoes. And be prepared for bridge lifts Monday morning when the ships leave. We have a list of each ship's expected departure time on our website, kgw.com.
All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, I was down there earlier. Despite all of the rain, there were already some really big lineups to check out those ships, folks with ponchos and umbrellas. When is the worst of this coming?
Now.
Good answer.
I mean, it's raining hard out there. Right? You almost need a boat just to get around downtown Portland. It is really coming down at the moment. You can see as we look out from our Wells Fargo Skycam, it's raining, and it's raining pretty hard. And I said now, being a little bit facetious there, because it's going to keep raining tonight, and our heaviest rain will probably happen about 11 o'clock to 1 a.m. in that time frame. 63 degrees and a good hard rain coming down. So by the hour, starting at 7 o'clock tonight, you can see it's just rain, 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 rain. Temperatures in the 60s. I've always wanted to do that, and I get a lot of opportunities so far this spring to say it that way. On Doppler radar, there's a heavy rain draped over downtown and the I-5 corridor right now. As we zoom out a bit, it looks like there's nothing much offshore, but it's just going to come into radar range as another surge rolls our way. So yes, very, very wet tonight. The good news is it's going to dry out for the Grand Floral Parade. I actually think it's going to be mainly dry from 10 a.m. till noon when the parade is happening. I'm saying scattered showers because can't completely rule it out. The air mass is just so moist. There's so much moisture available. Any little trigger can spark a shower, but I really think it's going to be more dry than wet during the parade hours tomorrow. So here's what you can expect for tonight and tomorrow. Rain, heavy at times tonight, right on into the early morning hours, very early, like 4, 5, 6 a.m. And then tomorrow, mostly cloudy, but mainly dry. I think it's going to really shape up for us, and then just a few scattered showers here and there. So all in all, let's get that rain on tonight. Get it out of the way, guys.
Let's do it. Great news for the parade. Thank you, Matt.
Gun violence and traffic fatalities need police officers to be proactive, and our deputies are doing that.
Well, tonight we are getting a glimpse of how law enforcement is taking on the violence. Multnomah County Sheriff's deputies, along with agency partners, now on special focused missions. And Sheriff Mike Reese says he is targeting neighborhoods where gun violence and traffic fatalities overlap. Let's bring in Mike Benner here. Mike, deputies have conducted several of these so far. What do we know?
Well, for starters, the sheriff thinks that these missions have been successful. Dozens of traffic stops, many arrests, stolen cars recovered, at least one gun seized. The sheriff says all of this leads to safer streets.
The car's not familiar, but...
This is video obtained from the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. It shows deputies conducting overnight missions in neighborhoods where gun violence and traffic fatalities overlap.
we're just one part of the solution, but an important part.
Multnomah County Sheriff Mike Reese is the driving force behind what are called Enhanced Public Safety Initiative missions, the latest happening just this week. Deputies and officers from partnering agencies made 51 traffic stops. They arrested 8 people, recovered 2 stolen cars, and seized 1 gun along the way.
Gun violence and traffic fatalities need police officers to be proactive, and our deputies are doing that.
Since the first mission back in mid-April, deputies have made more than 100 traffic stops and arrested nearly 3 dozen people, all while recovering 7 stolen vehicles.
I'm glad they're actually trying to focus on making it safer out here, and we're thankful for that, you know.
This man lives near 162nd and Burnside, the area of the latest mission. He and his neighbors appreciate the extra police presence because they'll tell you it's not uncommon to hear gunfire.
It's got to be at least like every night, multiple times a night.
And see reckless driving that includes speeding.
A lot of people seem to have forgotten that they're driving 1,000+ pound vehicles going speeds that man isn't naturally supposed to go.
Ending that sort of thing is just one of the goals of the Enhanced Public Safety Initiative missions that Sheriff Reese says we can expect to see a lot more of throughout the summer months.
And if our deputies aren't proactive in their abilities and their work, then we're missing a key component of keeping our community safe.
All right, thank you. You have a good night.
All right, the sheriff says that these missions are just one way to curb the violence. He says that increasing gun dispossession efforts is key, as well as increasing resources for those specialty teams that are focused on taking down the criminal organizations that are flooding our streets and communities with illegal drugs and illegal guns.